Welcome to Illuminating Catholics, podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese. Together with Carmen Bauer of the Faith Formation Office, we will shed light upon topics of faith in the modern church. Our guests include Catholic clergy, religious sisters, and other experts in their fields to help us understand what's happening in the church today. We will explore issues, even the tough ones, and to find answers to common questions about Catholicism. Thank you for joining us for today's Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Welcome back to the Illuminating Catholics podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I'm Dawn Prosser, and I'm Director of Communications for the Diocese. Carmen Bauer cannot be here with us today, but we promise she will be back. And so thank you for including us in your day and exploring another topic of the faith. And as we're kicking off our second season of the podcast, we're excited that we have from our Catholic Schools office, Kelly Kohout, and she is our Diocesan Director of Education Services. She's been taking a deep dive into artificial intelligence, otherwise known as AI, and we're going to talk about how that integrates into our Catholic schools and also a little bit into our Catholic faith. So I will mention that when I talked to Kelly about being on the podcast, she sent me a sample of a podcast about what we're going to talk about, totally created by AI. So that was kind of scary, kind of interesting that I was listening to it and the male voice sounded like Father Mike Schmitz. And yeah, it just was a little too good. So that was an interesting exercise. So I will just mention that was kind of one of the fun things that you can do. And Kelly obviously has messed with it more than I have. So welcome.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you here. So I just got back from a Catholic media conference, and immigration and AI were the two big topics of a lot of our sessions, both the breakouts and the plenary sessions. So perfect timing to talk to you about artificial intelligence. It's also been a hot topic around boardrooms and dinner tables. So just going to ask you, when did that first come across your desk at the Catholic Schools office?
I would say that AI formally grabbed my attention at the NCEA Law Symposium. So that's National Catholic Education Association. The Law Symposium, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. The discussion centered around actually California Catholic schools who were devoting the entire year to developing their students' and teachers' capacity to use AI. And at that point, I was literally just dabbling, putting prompts into ChatGPT, and these schools already had professional development plan for the entire year. So we have been working though behind the scenes to ensure proper cybersecurity measures for the last few years, seeing those warning signs and just anticipating that safe online future for our students. So we have put some background work into this. But I would say informally, we use AI in our everyday life. I think there's this misconception maybe that AI is for big tech companies, but we encounter AI everywhere in our daily lives. So you're getting recommendations for products from Amazon or suggestions for shows you might like on Netflix or autocorrect or Siri. And, there's so many different ways that AI is at work behind the scenes. But we're just now factoring in those large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude. And these tools are really changing the landscape.
It's frightening. I wondered if we were using it a lot and just didn't know it. And it's not quite to the level of Terminator where the machines take over the earth. That was some of the questions that were posed last week. Who thinks that this is scary and who thinks this is exciting? So
sure.
So you're apparently in the exciting camp.
I am.
So since y'all have been talking about it for a while, how do you feel that other educators received this? This is in our world. This is happening. We have to figure out how to deal with it. Were they fearful or were they excited? What was your experience with others?
I love that you mentioned that way because Pope Francis spoke at the G7 summit last June, and he did call AI an exciting and fearsome tool. So there's definitely both, some excitement, because of everything AI can offer. But is also, fearsome. It brings real concern to our everyday lives. So we acknowledge that our teachers do fall along the spectrum. Some are thinking, yikes, we're just going to go back to our blue books. And others are all in. So I think the research shows, though, that students are already using these tools. So whether we're embracing them in our classrooms or not, it's affecting our lives, especially in education.
Well, I like how you've been talking about it for a while so that when this tool is used, and those of us in the workplace too, that it's used responsibly and ethically and so forth. So,
Absolutely.
so we talked a little bit about Pope Francis addressing AI, and that was around Catholic Schools Week. So that's an interesting coincidence that document came out about that time. And we can put a link to that in the show notes if someone wants to read that session. So he was writing about the relationship between the artificial and human intelligence in Antiqua et Nova. I may or may not be pronouncing that correctly. So once that came out, did that also affect more discussions? Like, oh, the Pope is addressing it. Did you find that they were talking about it more within your Catholic schools?
Absolutely. I think, though, when we talk about Catholic education, everything we do is through that lens of our mission. So forming the whole child and forming virtuous disciples. So in everything we do, we always are asking how this aligns with our Catholic worldview. So what does this mean to use this tool while honoring the dignity of every person and every student made in the image and likeness of God? We know every mind is unique, and so are the ways we learn, work, and live. So I would argue that these documents were real. They shaped real change, I think, especially from Catholic thought leaders, and they have prompted. We are working on guidance for school policies and in services for staff, and really just the intentional design of learning opportunities for both students and teachers, using these documents essentially and guidance as an ethical, responsible Catholic roadmap to move forward with our planning.
One thing I thought about when it first came out is, okay, someone's going to cheat. someone's going to write their essay for English class and pop it into Chat GPT. So asking that question, would I assume teachers and parents are also fearful of this? That I don't know what kind of feedback that you've received on that.
Yes, a little all over the board, actually. I mean, I think facing resistance to new technologies isn't new. We know that educators and parents both were terrified, like when the calculator came out. But let me give you an example since you brought up the essay. If you think of a simple essay, I mean, ChatGPT, these large language models can easily write essays, write multiple iterations of essays within minutes. So that has caused a lot of anxiety because we look at that as cheating. But I mean, students have been doing this, maybe not with ChatGPT, but students have been doing this for years.
Been cheating for years.
Cheating for years. It just happens. So I think we have to, as educators, we have to flip that script. So think about it in a different way. So if we present students with these AI generated essays and then ask them to really dissect it, take it apart, improve it, we can offer them an essay that is from multiple different viewpoints or perspectives. And so this all of a sudden makes these exercises more critical thinking, which is really what education is supposed to be about. So I think we have to teach students to ask questions and prompt the technology effectively. And then we can really bring about a really efficient and powerful tool for our learning experiences.
So you mentioned that students are already using it, and I think you mentioned a few examples or just how we use it in our world. So do you have any specific examples of maybe what some educators are doing, what you've been seeing in your travels? Because I'll just tell you, Kelly travels a lot to our 15 school systems in the diocese.
I do. So I will say that we're already using, I mean, you think of students who can't access grade level text independently, and now we can offer struggling readers a simplified version of really any text. We have students who struggle with writing, organization, and now they have this thought partner to brainstorm with and help generate ideas, provide notes and summarizations and mind maps. We have students who struggle to keep track of assignments or deadlines, and now these students, maybe with ADHD or anxiety, have this. You can offer these AI generated reminders or virtual checklists, like I said, simplified notes. So I think it has allowed us to offer that more customized, personalized learning experience that will it'll foster a new sense of engagement, because for a while students weren't able to access their education, and these tools are allowing our teachers to do these kinds of things that really are transformative.
That's really fascinating that you can customize these documents and the organization, the reminders, etc., for the students having trouble. So that means your teachers have to be on board and know how to use these tools. So what has happened so far? We'll get into the fall issue here in a bit, but
Sure.
what has happened so far with in-services or information sent to your educators?
I feel like it's just been sporadic, but teachers are kind of finding out how these tools can just be so helpful for them. I think they're dabbling, which I think is really where it has to start. But if AI can help write a rubric, or help design engaging, differentiated lesson plans, it allows time for teachers then to get back to actually connecting with students, and doing what's most important is building those relationships and mentoring and formation. So it's really about working smarter and strengthening that human connection that we have. But I do agree, we are planning some professional development for teachers in the future, because it's really going to transform. It really could transform education.
I just kind of wonder back, because I worked in the day before we had the internet, and I just wonder if the same kind of conversations were coming up back then when it was, because I remember when St. Mary's School got the first internet cabling in there. There might have been like 5 computers that could get on the internet. So I just wonder if it was similar conversations back then. Oh, students are going to cheat, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And now
There's no doubt.
And now we can't function without them.
It's so true. It's so true.
So, in a nutshell, we could say that the students are going to benefit because they're going to have access to tools that are out in the world that they may be using. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. I think in so many ways, like I said, we can personalize their education. We truly believe that all students are made in the image and likeness of God and have unique talents and gifts that are God-given. And we really want to amplify those. And we really want to give give students access. And I believe that this will be a support for teachers in doing that. Think of a teacher in a classroom with 20 different students. You have 20 unique minds and ways of learning. And we've been asking teachers to differentiate, to try and keep kids engaged. And that's a challenging task in any day, but especially in this world where students are distracted by technology already, in their outside world. And we want to bring them back to connecting in the way that is productive.
So you're really preparing them for the future, such as the old internet analogy, and learning how to use that because we use it in our everyday life. Is there still a spot in our academic day for the more traditional methods? You mentioned some of the teachers like, we need to go back to the blue books. So how does that fit in? How do the old techniques fit in?
I do think that we have to find a balance. It's always about a balance. And I think always, again, at the forefront of our minds in Catholic education is our Catholicity and making those connections and forming disciples. So that is always at the forefront of what we're doing. And then we just find the right tools to use to make that the most productive that we can.
One thing we talked about in our conference was we still need the human element. Like you said, the students
Absolutely.
Going through the essay and using critical thinking skills. And it sounds like, I haven't read the document yet, from the Vatican, that it's still the human person there. And I think some people brought up, is AI going to take our jobs? And there'll
Absolutely.
be unemployment because AI will do our jobs, but there's still that human element. And it was on 60 Minutes not very long ago.
Absolutely.
Did you watch that?
Yes, I did.
They talked to some very well educated individuals in Kenya, and they were manually, we won't go into all the details, manually going through data to basically program some of the AI. So I thought this is exactly what we're talking about, keeping that. You have to have that human element. It's, we're not to the Terminator stage yet. where
Absolutely.
Arnold
I
Schwarzenegger will
think
take
we have
over.
to we have to reimagine, and I think that's what's happening is we're reimagining, our futures, what our futures are going to look like, and adapting. So we need to. We're slow at adapting in education, but we do. I really thought after COVID. I hate to even bring that up, but when schools shut down,
Yeah.
and I really thought we might reimagine how we do education, but we really kind of went back to just business as usual. So I really believe that these critical thinking skills, these 21st century skills that are so important that employers are looking for in our students, we need to reimagine our classrooms so that we are preparing students for their future and not necessarily for our past.
I thought it was interesting when teachers there's been a big debate about cell phones in the classroom, about they wanted them to bring in their cell phone and show that, or smartphone, whatever they had, and show them how to use that to do research or whatever. And I'm sure you, as well as I use my smartphone at work. There are some
Absolutely.
apps for social media that it can only be done on the mobile device and so
Right.
forth, or working after hours. We won't tell Bishop
Absolutely.
about that. So, what kind of concerns or challenges are you hearing from students or educators as we move forward in a world that's most likely going to have more widespread use of AI? What are you hearing for concerns?
I mean, number one from teachers is the cheating or the plagiarizing piece, and our AI detectors just have proven unreliable. So again, that's why I talk about having to really transform how we do business. But I also worry about a decline in critical thinking and maybe even an over reliance on AI. I mean, I have college kids and I see how they're using it because there aren't very many guardrails yet because educators just aren't sure how to do this work. But studies do show that young people see AI chatbots as experts. And that worries me because we know that there's incorrect or biased information shared. So we really our students must have these critical evaluation skills to know and to understand. And I think we also have to scaffold our teaching and learning for the use of AI for the brain development of our students. The AI should not be used with all students in all grade levels, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think
So,
you mentioned early in our conversation that your office is looking at policies, or probably the diocesan school board, to have some of those guardrails. And I would speculate that a lot of industries are doing the same.
absolutely. I think, we have to also think about data privacy, the data privacy. So though our schools have all undergone cybersecurity risk assessments, so they're working to address those potential risks. But ensuring that safe environment is number one. So yes, those policies, that guidance is crucial.
So we'll be on the lookout for that.
Absolutely.
So I have not dabbled a lot in it, and I suspect maybe a lot of our listeners haven't either. Are the apps are they easy to get? Are a lot of them free? And if someone wanted to dabble, where would they find them?
They are everywhere. And yes, there's many that are free. I mean, if you just Google ChatGPT, I mean, that is just an easy place to start. You can put in a prompt. We talk a lot about prompt engineering, thinking about how we're putting into prompts, like what's the point of view you want to hear from, different situations. So that's, I think, the easiest way to start. You could do that through Google on your computer. You can pull up an app on your phone. There are just so many tools, but I would say if you just want to dabble, that's where I would start. it's already built in actually to Google searches. So if you're doing searches on Google, at the very top, it's going to come up with an AI generated true explanation first and kind of a summary. And then luckily, I'm happy that they do this, but they add a link to where they have gotten those resources, which I think is very important because I have found, discrepancies when I put something in and it's something that I have background knowledge on. And I'm like, that just doesn't sound right. So you go to the link and maybe it's something that's just a little bit outside the scope of what you were wanting. So I think that's the key also is our students don't always have that background knowledge to know when the information coming at them is accurate or not. So that is going to be a huge teaching and learning moment.
Which is where we need the human element. We still must use our brains.
Yes, yes.
Kind of like we've all forgotten phone numbers because we haven't programmed in our phone. We're not using our brains like we used to.
Yes, yes.
So everybody get out there, go forth and experiment.
No kidding.
So
it's the best way to learn. The best way to learn.
I agree. It's fun to dabble with technology until it starts to not work and then I get frustrated. Yeah. But that's everybody.
That's everybody.
So this fall, we have kind of an exciting event coming up for our Catholic school administrators and educators having to do with artificial intelligence. And I'm just going to let you talk about it.
Sure. We are hosting our Diocesan Ministries Conference in September. We have all 600 plus teachers from the diocese gathered to pray and learn together. But the focus is using AI to transform inclusive Catholic education. We are thrilled to welcome the team from Higher Powered Learning at Notre Dame. It's Father Nate Wills and Louis Pochet. Father Nate's going to give a keynote, and then he and Louis are going to lead workshops on how to effectively integrate AI in our Catholic classrooms. So I just think I can't wait. This is just such a powerful opportunity to explore how AI can support diverse learners while we remain true to the mission of our schools. So we can't wait.
That's exciting. So you'll have keynotes and then breakout sessions maybe by grade level or by discipline or...
Yes, elementary and secondary, okay. We will have them break out. And like I said, we want to do more of a workshop model rather than just sit and get. And then we're hoping to have follow-up also with Notre Dame's putting together some activities so we can have that follow through.
Oh, like after the conference ends. That's great. So they can stay on top of things.
Absolutely. It's not a one and done.
Yeah. So when and where is this?
It is September 22nd, and we are having it in Carroll at Kemper. So we're excited to kind of have it more central to the diocese. We know, we have teachers driving from, we're 24 counties in Northwest Iowa. So we always have people who are having to wake up at the crack of dawn and drive. And we feel like having it in Carroll is a little more central for people. So we're excited about that.
Central is nice. That's why we have a lot of meetings in Carroll, Fort Dodge, Storm Lake, a lot in Storm Lake. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Put your car on autopilot.
Yes.
Yeah. Bishop Keener mentioned, I talked to him on Monday, and he's like, last week I spent 18 hours in a car. He's used to a diocese that's 6 counties and not 24. So, but I digress. I digress. So what parting words would you have for maybe parents that are concerned or even grandparents that are involved with their children's education? Should we be afraid of this? Should we embrace it?
I truly believe it's not about choosing between our tradition and our technology. It's more about using those tools we have to deepen what's already sacred, which is those relationships, that formation and the growth of our students. Like we both said, Catholic education is very human work, but that's also exactly where AI, when it's done well, can really lend a hand and make our classrooms even more vibrant for our students.
So I can imagine that it's not going to stop after September. I imagine that this is just going to be an ongoing, like I said, you're still working on the policies, and I understand those do take a while.
Yes.
I'm guessing this is going to be at the forefront for a while.
It will be. I don't think it's going away. It's not going away, but we really want to amplify those voices of our teachers and empower our students. but continue our tradition of that excellent, Catholic school work that we're doing. So we are excited. I think there is a lot of angst around this, but I just want your listeners to know that we're working on it, and we're working together with people who have our Catholicity in mind. That always is at the forefront of everything we do.
Because we are Catholic schools.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this has been great. We'll put maybe a link to Chat GPT in the show notes too, so people have something to just kind of mess around with a little bit, and don't be scared.
Yeah, just have fun with it.
Yeah. And apparently there's subscriptions you can get for different programs if you're working on video or images, and it's
absolutely so many different avenues you can go down.
Yes. So I thank you so much for spending a little bit of time sharing the world of artificial intelligence with us, and how we can respectively use this and still keep the human element, so it's a little less scary and a little more exciting for us. So thank you so much for coming on the air with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we'll stay in touch on this topic.
Absolutely.
So thank all of you for following us and listening to today's podcast. Hopefully you learned a little something, not just about artificial intelligence, but how that's going to live in our Catholic world. And I'm sure we'll be exploring that in the future as well. And with this summer travel season, it's a great time to take us with you and go back, maybe listen to some episodes that you might have missed. Learn a little something while you're driving across 20 or I-29. So thank you for listening, and be sure to look for the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Follow us for more episodes on topics of the Catholic faith. For more diocesan news, visit lumenmedia.org.